Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for joining today. My name is Jamie, and I'm going to be presenting our Premier Payments and Adjustments webinar. And we will be discussing how to manually enter payments and adjustments into your Premier program. While I'm going through this webinar, if you have any questions, please enter them into the question box, which is located on the right side of your screen. All questions will be answered at the end of the webinar. And please understand I can only answer program-related questions in this webinar. If you have any specific issues you need help with, please call us or send an email to support@EZClaim.com. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I've already shared my screen with you, so you should be able to see my standard Premier screen here. And the first thing that I always show you is where you can find help and detailed information about the program. And that is on our help topics, which is available up here on the top ribbon bar. Clicking this will open up the help system, which is always available. And the help topic is always available regardless of what ribbon you may be viewing. And in the help file, you can search by our contents list or do a simple keyword search. And find all sorts of help there for you. Now, in Premier, there are multiple ways in which payment information can be entered. In fact, there are 5 different ways to enter a payment into Premier. My objective today is to show you those various ways, explain why they work the way they do, so that you'll be able to decide what's the best way for your office to proceed. Now, payment entry areas in Premier are identified by the icon that has the hand with the money in it, this little icon right here. And we see this here on the Home tab. We also can see this up on the Home ribbon. And you can also see it on your Patient Quick Access screen here. The small icon on the far left here is for Add Payment. If you don't have this Add Payment here, it's simply just brought in by accessing your column chooser and bringing it in through here. And again, it's labeled as Add Payment. Now you also have the ability to right-click on any patient to see an option to add a payment for them. You can also do this from the claim list as well. And here it's split out a little more for you as to ask you if you're going to add a patient payment or a payer payment. And this one will load a patient payment for you. And now, whether you are clicking from here or your Add Payment button, the formal Enter Payment button, they all are going to accomplish the same thing. They're going to open up the payment entry screen. Now, before I go too far into this webinar, I do want to discuss the differences between the terms payments and disbursements. In Premier, we refer to the term payment as the whole check or the total amount. Disbursement refers to the monies that were dispersed from that whole check. So for example, if I'm going to enter in a Blue Cross check, say that we received a paper check from them, I could pull in Blue Cross up here, and I'm going to put the total check information up top here. Say it was $250. Can put in the check date and any other items I would like to associate to it. But I'm not going to disperse this one out yet. I just want to enter this and save it. So if I come over here to the right side of my screen, I'm going to save this $250 check, but it hasn't been dispersed yet. And the program is telling me here that I do have a balance remaining on this current payment, asking me to confirm that I wanted to save and move on. Yes, we're going to come back to this payment. I still want to take a small look at some of the differences between payments and disbursements. So I'm going to take a moment and open up two of our find grids. And I'm going to open up find payment as well as find disbursement. These will help to show some of the differences between the two. Now, looking at this find payment grid, we can see we're just seeing check information. Say for this first Aetna one, for example, we have our check amount, the check date, method, reference number. But what we don't see is exactly to whom this Aetna check was for, which patients, which claims. That we can do by taking the reference number. I think I'm actually going to use a different Aetna check. Yeah. I'm going to copy the reference number here from Find Payment. And I'm going to take it to Find Disbursement, and I'm going to filter or search by that check's reference number. And here we can see in Find Disbursement to whom this check was applied out to. We can see it was applied out to 5 different claims among 3 different patient accounts. So now that we've talked a little bit about the difference between payments and disbursements, I want to talk about the difference between applied payments and unapplied payments. An applied payment is one that has been fully dispersed to a service line. An unapplied payment is one that has been entered into your program, but not yet applied to any service lines, just like this Blue Cross Blue Shield $250 check. Another common example would be collecting and entering a patient copay, but not yet applying it out to their claim. Let's do an example here. I'm actually going to go over here to the right-hand side and click on New Payment so I can clear this screen and start entering a new payment. And I'm going to do a patient payment. So on my source up here, I'm going to hit my patient radio button. And I'm going to look for my test patient that I'm using. And we're going to enter in the $25 copay payment. Use T for today. And let's say paid by check. And we can enter in any reference number. But before I save this is going to give me a great example to show you our balance columns within the program. So I'm going to move my divider bar over here to the left a little bit just to give me a little more room. There we go. And I'm going to filter to this patient. And here, let's do it this way. So I just have my one patient listed up here right now. And as it stands, before I've saved this $25 payment we are entering for her, we can see that there is a $0 patient balance, so there's nothing technically owed by her at this point. We have a claim balance of $143. That balance is fully at insurance. The patient claim balance is at 0. Again, she doesn't owe anything, and we don't have any unapplied money from her. When I save this payment, Watch these balance columns and how they change. So we're now showing that we have $25 of Megan's money. It's showing as a $25 credit because she technically doesn't owe anything yet. This claim, we haven't entered in the insurance payment information. We can see as soon as I saved it, it was reflected on her account, even though it technically wasn't dispersed out yet. And before we disperse this out, I would like to go over a little more of a description of these balance columns, as well as some that are available on the bottom half here on the Claims tab. The program does track multiple balance types for each patient account. Patient balance is anything that the patient might owe, including any unapplied monies. So that's why we have a $25 credit here. Total claim balance is putting in the patient and claim balance combined. Insurance balance is just doing that, just showing you what the insurance owes. Patient claim balance is just showing you the balance of the claim without any consideration of any unapplied balances. And then lastly, of course, is the patient unapplied balance. All of these are available to pull in via the column chooser, as well as on the claim tab down here. We have the patient balance, insurance balance. We see if there are any others. I'm going to quickly search bail here. And we also have total balance. Now, like I said, all of these are available by right-clicking on the column header and accessing the column chooser. That being said, I do not recommend displaying all of these at once. It tends to be too much information. Choose one or two that make sense for your office that are important for quick reference, and leave the rest of them hidden unless you feel a need to bring them in. So I am actually going to take a couple of these out just to clean up my screen just a little bit. So far we've discussed the payment icons, how and where to access them, the distinction that Premier makes between a payment and disbursement, the difference between applied and unapplied payments, and the different balance columns that are available for viewing. All right, let's go ahead and enter some more payments. So typically the first question that you always want to ask yourself when you begin to enter a payment is, what type of payment is it? Is it a patient payment or is it an insurance payment? And so right up here, we are using the example of a patient payment. And when we chose Megan Testing here as our patient, the program went through and found any claims of hers that have a balance and displayed them down here. It also is displaying any unapplied monies that we have up here in the upper right. And that's what we're seeing here, is that $25 that we had entered in a few minutes ago. So I'm actually going to clear this and kind of show you what it looks like for bringing it up from fresh. So I'm going to put in our patient last name again. And it's displaying me right here her unapplied monies, which is at $25. And then on the lower half here, she just has the one claim with the outstanding balance. So if I wanted to disperse this $25 to that claim, just click disperse and it's going to load the check here. It did not disperse it up to any claim yet. We just kind of told the program that, yes, this is the check that we do want to disperse. If we had multiple here, you would be able to choose which one you wanted. And when we click that, it loaded the check here. And we also see how much of that check we have remaining here on the remaining bar. And now at the bottom right-hand corner, I'd like to talk about the filters that we have set up here that are going to control what claims are shown here when you are entering a payment, whether it be a patient payment or a payer payment. So right down here, we have our Ignore Responsible Party checkbox. This will disregard whether the balance is due from a payer or patient. And I'm actually going to switch to a different payment here to go over the rest of these, because one of these is only available when you're doing a payer payment, and that's that match by payer ID. And we see it here, it's grayed out. So what I'm going to do, let's finish just paying this out. We have her $25 loaded. And if this is a claim that we want to apply it to, we can just use our pay button, and it's going to pay that full $25. If we didn't want that full 25 to apply, saying we only needed to pay 20, we would want to manually add in that amount so that we can control it. And we'll see that will give us $5 remaining. But I am actually going to fully disperse this. And I have 0 remaining. I can save. And we even see that now reflected in our balance columns. Our claim balance went down. Patient unapplied balance went down. You see this reflected in the balance all over. Now let's try entering in a payer payment. Let's see if we can get one in here for Aetna. So when I pulled Aetna, it's showing me any checks from Aetna that still have money out to disperse. I have 4 of them up here. And it's also showing me any claims that have an outstanding balance from Aetna. Now, if we look down towards our bottom right-hand corner again, we see that we have our, excuse me, Ignore Responsible Party, which will show us claims that maybe have the responsible party set to patient or a different payer, maybe a secondary payer on the claim. This will allow you to view any of those. We can also match by payer ID so that it's only showing you claims that have Aetna as the matching payer ID. And then we also have our last one here that is set to include $0 zero balance service lines. And it actually does give you a date to go back from. This one may need to be checked for you, say if you have a payer that has paid incorrectly and the claim already is at a $0 balance. You may need to check that to get it to display here so that you can pay the, I guess, incorrect payment towards it. Now, with all these filters in play, if you still have a large list of claims here, you can use the filter row to narrow it down. So if we were looking for patient starting with the last name of N, it would filter that and just show us those claims. I also notice that this screen is a grid. So we can right click and see if there's other column options that we would like to see. Such as maybe if you wanted to put in the allowed amounts. Of course, I don't have any of them filled out in this program. But you may want to bring in claim ID or rendering provider, anything to help you understand how this claim should be paid. Now, if you have any existing payments or adjustments on a claim, you can view them here at the payment entry area. And you can see those just by drilling down on the claim. Well, if we look here on my list, you'll see that some of my patient names here have a plus sign that is viewable or lit up, I guess is the term. When you see that one is lit, that means that you can drill down and see the existing information. So here we have our $25 payment that we put against this claim. Further down the list, we have some other patients showing a $0. Here's some showing a payment, an adjustment, and again, another payment. So that's how you can see anything that's existing on a claim. And if you needed to open the claim to view it for any reason, you can do so here too, just by double clicking on the claim, and it will open up in a small pop-up for easy view. And this might be if you need to look at a claim note, see anything else on the claim, such as some of the claim information. And then you can just simply close it and bring it back to your posting screen. Okay, let's do a different payment here. I'm going to choose Medicare at this point. So I'm going to do a new payment. And I'm going to choose Medicare on my list here. So I don't have to scroll down. I'm just going to start typing ME, and it's going to filter my list. Again, it's showing me any checks that I have already entered that have remaining money. And down here, I'm seeing a list of patients and claims that are due money from Medicare. So we're going to put in our check total here. Let's put in $1,000. T for today. For today's date, you can use Y for yesterday or some of the shortcuts in our date fields. Payment method. And when you are getting the program for the first time, the payment method here is blank. And if you just start typing, it's going to capture your method and save it for the next time. It'll build upon that. And any reference number you would like to associate here. And we also give you additional reference number fields and additional note fields for anything else you may want to note about the payment that you are entering. And I'm actually going to take a moment and I'm going to open up a couple of claims here just so we can see how the program is treating them as we enter in a primary payment. And I think I am using new test. Yes. So I have two dates here. I'm going to use these August dates. Let's say yes to save this. And I'm also going to use this August 21st date. So this August 1st date just has the primary payer on it, no secondary. Bill to is at primary, responsible party is at primary as well. In our other data service here, we have an example where we have a primary and secondary, and a responsible party is at primary on there. So when we go to apply a primary payment for these, I'm going to filter. And let's say that Medicare paid $40 on this line, and they paid $130 on this one. We can take this time also to enter in any adjustments that are noted on the EOB. And so for this one, the 8/1 day, I am going to enter in a CO45 amount to get rid of my $15 balance. We'll say that was part of a contractual write-off. The program remembers the last adjustment that you used. And so it knew my previous payment, I'd used the CO45 at some point. And so that's why it brought that up for me. And if I needed to add in any more adjustments, typical of Medicare, they usually include 2 or 3. Maybe we including the contractual adjustment, sequestration, and any other legislative things that Medicare might send across. But if you need more adjustment columns here, you can just click on the plus sign to add a minus side to take them away. So now when I save these 2 primary payments to these claims, we're going to be able to see how the program changes the responsible party automatically. So when I go back to 8.1 now, it has now flipped the responsible party to patient. I actually have a $0 balance here because everything was paid off, and responsible party is at patient. If there was a balance, a statement would be ready for this patient and claim. Moving to the 8/21 date, we can see now it is flipped to the secondary payer. A responsible party has flipped to secondary, and the claim status is at ready to submit. So this claim, the secondary claim, is ready to go out just by applying or dispersing that primary payment. I'm going to close these 2 examples. So now I kind of did an example here of what happens if you stop in the middle of entering a payment. Well, you can save it and come back to it. So I still have Medicare loaded up here on my payment entry, and we can see my $1,000 check here that I saved. I had only dispersed out 170 of it, and I have I have $830 left here remaining. Now, if I wanted to finish applying out this check or dispersing it, it is still loaded here, so I could just continue on dispersing. Well, but let's say if I had closed this tab. I can always find any payments through the Find Payment grid. And I already have that grid open here, so I'm just going to go to it. And I do have it sorted by most recent up top here. So my Medicare check is right up top here. And to finish dispersing it, I would simply come here and click on Disperse. Now, if I wanted to edit any check, say that I had entered something about this check wrong, I can click Modify. And our Payment Modification tab will open. This screen is very similar to the payment entry screen, except for one big exception, the delete button that is available over here on the right-hand side. You can make changes to a payment or disbursement from this screen. Some changes that might be common might be if it was dispersed to the wrong service line, the wrong amount was entered, or it was the wrong patient. So to correct or undisperse, you would just bring the payment up here in payment modification. I can see here on my Medicare $1,000 check here. These are the 2 claims that I dispersed out to. One I applied 130, one was 40. So let's say that this $40 payment was incorrect. Say that it was actually needed to be 35. I had just read the EOB wrong. I can come here and make a change to that just by editing the amount and resaving it. Now let's say that I had applied it to the wrong claim and I need to take it away altogether. I can just click on the X and it will delete this payment disbursement. So it's not going to delete my check, but it's going to put that money back up into the check bucket. So when I save this, and let me pull the payer back up. Do it by date so I can find mine. There we go. I just have the one disbursement from it. Now you can't apply any payments from payment modification. If I wanted to finish out applying the rest of this, I would want to disperse it, not modify, and it's going to load the check and payment entry, allowing me to continue to disperse how much to each line that needs to be. Type in the amount cell, tab over, or if you're going to pay the full amount, you can use the pay button. And one thing I want to bring to your attention on this screen is the auto apply button. This is a button that I would not recommend using on a insurance payment because you cannot control which claim or which date that the money is being applied out to. It's just going to go to the oldest date or the first one on the list here. So that may be fine for a patient payment. Because typically on a patient payment, they are just applying the oldest claim balance first. It doesn't quite matter, but when an insurance company pays, they pay to a very specific date, and you need to make sure that you are applying the money out to that specific date as well. So again, just a fair warning, the auto apply button should not be used for a payer payment, should only be used when using a patient payment. A good example is if they have given you a large sum. Let me grab my other patient. You could come in and say auto apply, and it's just going to go to top services until it no more can be dispersed out. A great feature for patient payments, but again, and not recommended on a payer payment. So let's discuss credits or refunds, or sometimes even called takebacks or recoupments. Different payers call it different things. Even different offices call it many different things. So entering a credit is as simple as entering a payment. You're just going to use negative numbers. Negative numbers in Premier are represented by parentheses around the amount instead of the negative sign. So let's say if we had to refund a patient some money that they had overpaid, we're going to choose our patient here. And we're going to put in how much the refund would be. So you can enter in the minus sign or the negative sign, and when I did that, my zero amount here turned into the parentheses. And to apply it out, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to enter it as the negative. One good feature to use when entering in refunds or negative amounts to what you're remaining. When I applied this out, it should go down to 0. If I had entered it wrong, it increased my remaining amount. So just a little clue there. And we can see it brought her balance up because we were taking money back. And we can see how that looks here. It's right up top because I have it sorted by date. This is a negative or a credit amount that was entered in. So we've just covered adding, editing, and deleting payments. Let's circle around and talk about adding adjustments when adding payments. And I did bring this up just a little bit when we had our Medicare checkup here. So I'm going to load Medicare one more time. And sort by date. There we go. So I've just loaded our Medicare check that I had already entered previously. And we can use this as an example to show how we can apply adjustments at any time during payment entry. So as I pointed out, you have your adjustment columns that are available here. One is available by default. If you need to increase that amount, you can just click the plus sign. And you can get as many adjustment columns here as you need. Some of the most common reasons for entering an adjustment might be for a contractual write-off, or for maybe a professional courtesy, hardship discount, something like that, where you can adjust the balance of the claim for the patient. The amount of the adjustment that you are putting in goes in the amount cell. So if we're looking at, let's use this claim right here for patient sample. Looking at our EOB, we saw that Medicare paid $88 for this. And then they also had a $42 contractual adjustment. My math probably isn't solid here. I'm just doing examples. And that left us with a $20 balance. So we were able to put in our 42 adjustment amount. We were able to label what type of adjustment it is, and you would refer to your EOB to see how the payer is classifying it, and also your reason. You also have the option to put any remark codes, and those are just shown by clicking on the check mark on the far right-hand side of your screen. And if you want to enter in any remark codes that are included in the EOB, you can do so here as well. And we can save that. So throughout the webinar, I've been using this main payment entry screen for any payments and adjustment examples. I'd like to show you some of the payment and adjustment shortcuts that are available throughout different places in the program. I'm actually going to open up a claim here. We'll just use one of the ones I had open earlier. Well, actually, let's get a claim here with a balance. So when a claim is open, clear out some of my other tabs here. When we have a claim open on the screen, we get an additional ribbon bar up here. It's our claim ribbon. And in here, we have an actions menu that gives us some options for writing off the claim or paying off the claim. By clicking one of these options, a small pop-up will appear on the screen where you can enter in a payment or adjustment that will apply to the whole claim. So if I click on Write Off Claim, it's going to enter in an adjustment using the codes that I select, the date, reason, and any note that I wanted to put to write off this $140 balance. What you notice is that you can't control the amount that you're entering in. You are telling the program that you want to write off the entire claim, which in this instance is that $140 balance. And we also have pay off claim. So similar to the write off option, when we click pay off claim, our amount field is predefined for us. This one is actually visible, but it's grayed out because we've told the program that we want to pay off the entire claim, not allowing us to control the amount. Handy shortcut if you are just writing off the balance. Now there is an option here where you can choose the source. If you had a secondary payer here, you would be able to choose that secondary payer or tertiary. Now, if you need to enter in an adjustment or a payment for a single service line or claim, let me just go ahead and bring up a different one here. You have the ability to enter in a payment or adjustment right on the service line itself. And to do so, you would just enter or just double click on either the adjustment cell of the service line, or if you're going to enter in a payment, you can double click on the paid cell of the service line. And this will allow you to control the amount in both scenarios. And also, when you double click in the adjustment cell, it's going to show you any existing adjustments on a claim. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to use a find adjustment here just to open up a claim. There we go. So on this claim for Megan, I already have an existing adjustment on here of $3. If I wanted to edit that, I could just click in here and change it. I could delete it, or if I wanted to add on to it, I could do so. Okay, so that is putting in the adjustments of what I kind of call on the fly. Again, you can do it right from the service line of the claim itself. And one of the last things I want to go over is our payment widgets. I actually don't have any of them displayed here, so I'm going to go into my libraries and into my widget library. And we do have a few different widgets here that can help you with manual payment entry. And that is our payments with a balance remaining widget. Or we also have, I do believe it is undispersed payments. So I've checkmarked those. They're going to be visible here now on my home screen. Payments with a balance remaining are payments that have been entered into your program but have not yet been fully dispersed, meaning some of the money has been dispersed but not all of it. And then we have our other widget called undispersed payments. This is going to give you a list of any payments in the program that have been entered and not dispersed at all. So I have covered a lot of information about payments and adjustments in this webinar. To quickly recap, we started with the difference between payments and adjustments, the difference between an applied amount and an unapplied amount, as well as the various balance columns. Next, we moved on to the payment entry screen. We talked about the options on the lower right corner, how to enter in a new payment, how to disperse monies from existing checks. We've also discussed how to find, edit, and delete an existing payment or disbursement, and also how to enter in negative amount for a credit or a refund. And the very last things we covered was the manually adding in adjustments and payments and a couple of the payment widgets that are available from the home screen. This is a big topic to cover because there are so many ways to enter in patient information and to enter in patient payment information. Please remember that we do have detailed information in the Premier Help Topics if you have any questions. And right now I'll open up the session to your questions. So any questions that have come up along the way, please enter them into the question box and I'll get to as many of them as I can during my time here. Any questions that I don't get to, please submit to support@EZClaim.com and we'll go ahead and answer them in that avenue. I'll take a moment here to give you some time to get your questions answered, and I'll proceed. One moment. Okay, I've got a lot of great questions already, so I'm just going to kind of jump in with them. One of the first questions up here is how to show a refund to an insurance company, whether it was applied to the patient or not. So just as I had last discussed, to enter in any refund, you're going to enter it in as a negative amount. So let's say if you need to give money back to Aetna, you're going to pull up Aetna, and you're going to enter in how much you're giving them back. Say we're giving them back $43, put in negative 43, check date, method, however you are giving this back to them, and any reference number. Now, if that amount had been dispersed out to a specific claim, you would want to load that claim here and apply this negative $43 to it, or that negative amount. And that way you'll show in your program, you'll have trace of the refund going back and to the claim and the patient that it was for on there, all noted. Now, if you hadn't applied out the original payment yet, if you say you knew what was wrong to begin with and you never dispersed it, that would be maybe you just need to put in the negative Aetna payment here and save it because there was no claim to put it against you. But you do want to show that you gave back money, so you could enter that in here, and this is going to be allocated in your monthly reports. So I do have a question here about how duplicate payments are handled. Great question. There is a setting in the program, and I'm going to jump over to my tools and go into program setup. And on our options here, we have a payment option, and there's a checkbox here to check for duplicate payments. This is also where you can tell it to automatically enter in the adjustment 1 reason code. That is in here too. So we do have a setting in here that will check for duplicate payments, so it will warn you as you are entering it. Just to kind of show here, let me oops, we'll just do a $2 one here today. And I'll go ahead and even apply that out. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do patient X, $2 today, cash, and I'm going to get a warning. So it'll allow you to proceed, but it will also throw you a warning that it could be a duplicate. Great if you're doing manual payment entry. It'll catch any accidental duplications. So I have a question here about clarifying if you entered in a disbursement incorrectly, about how to clear it out. So I'm actually going to close this here, and it's just going to ask me if I want to save these changes. I'm going to say no. So if you've discovered that you've entered in the disbursement incorrectly, I'll open up my 2 grids again. And I'm just going to narrow this just by payer payments real quick. So if you've discovered that you've entered in your payment incorrectly, if you just, when you find it and you hit modify, if you hit the big delete button over here, it's going to wipe out the entire check and you'd have to re-enter everything. But if this $140 from Blue Cross was just paid to the wrong patient or the wrong claim, if I just hit this X here, it's going to delete this payment disbursement. And you'll see like up top in here, this is the payment. It's $140. It was fully dispersed. I had 0 remaining. So when I save this, it actually save. Oh, let me find it over here. There, it brought that whole $140 back to the full remaining. And then I can disperse it to the correct patient and claim. So you can either unapply the disbursement or you can completely delete the check, depending on how wrong it is. Yep, I think I just want, somebody wants me to go over how to enter in the negative amount again. I can absolutely do so. So I'm gonna hit new payment here. And I'm actually gonna use an example of a patient credit or refund. So let's just say we found out that the patient had overpaid. Let's say we need to give him back $200. So anytime that you are putting in a credit negative amount, it's parentheses, or if you hit the minus button, it will turn it into the parentheses. So now we've got the total amount that we will be taking back. And now we want to tell the program from which claims is this $200 coming from. So obviously you would maybe need to open this in C on here, or you'd have a list that you're referring to. I'm just going to kind of choose some claims here. So I have my first 50 coming from this claim, second one coming from this one, each one I put as in a negative amount, and now I'm down to a 0 remaining, meaning I've dispersed out this full entire $200 credit from patient credit. Obviously, you would note how you are giving this money back. Let's see how that looks. So I think if we open up one of these claims, might be on here. Yep, patient credit, 1017, here's my $50 credit. And on the claim initially, we had a $100 charge. And it looks as though we've actually just applied a $50 credit to it, so it doesn't make the most sense for a realistic billing scenario. But you do see the credit on there that is affecting the balance. And my note on here. So I do have a question about the check dates. Specifically, let's use a payer payment. Check date right here. This is really up to each office. My recommendation, though, is to use the actual check date that the payer has put on the check. Because behind the scenes, so if I'm entering in this new check, let's make it jump out at me. Use today's date. Actually, let's say the check date was September 1st. Say I'm behind, I'm just getting to it. And we're just going to go ahead and save that. So this is an undispersed check in here that I'm entering. What I want to show you is if I go and find that payment, And it's right here is my Aetna 111. And I see the payment date here that I entered for the check date. But what you can do is you can right click and get into the column chooser. And we have a created timestamp that we're always tracking when you're doing any data entry. So if you want to put the deposit date or the check date, whatever the payer has put on there, feel free to do so. Behind the scenes, we are always tracking the date that that actual payment was created in your program. And again, too, we do give you multiple fields. So if there's any other dates or anything else that you wanted to associate with a check, you can do so on these fields here. The reference, additional reference, and note. All right, another question here is, how do you post recoupments that have been deducted from insurance payments? Recoupments are just like refunds, credits, or takebacks. They're going to go in as a negative amount. So if you're looking at your EOB and on it they are taking back the money, again, you're just going to have the full check amount up here. And let me put today's date. And if they paid 50 on this one, but then on this date, they actually, let me see if I can find an older one in here. Let's say if they're actually taking money back from an older date, you're going to put it in the same way that it's listed on the EOB, negative. So just like you see in the EOB, if they are taking back money, it shows as a negative, you're going to enter it as a negative in your program here. And you see that reflected on the claim too as a negative amount. I know some of the frustration that we hear on the support lines quite a bit is if someone is manually entering in payments here and their claim isn't visible here. The claim that's on the EOB is not showing up when they're looking here. And that typically is because it is the responsible party is not at that payer, or the service line is already at 0, or it's an older claim that is not being displayed, and you can adjust the filters here and try and get it to show up. And sometimes when a call comes in like that, my go-to troubleshooting is to actually stop and look at the claim that's being paid and see what might be on it that's possibly stopping it from displaying in this field. It might be because there was a change in payer and the claim still has the old insurance company on it. It could be a numerous different ways. So if you're having trouble posting payments because your claims aren't showing up in your payment entry screen here, look at the claims and see why they aren't showing up there. There's usually a reason why they're being filtered out, and we'd be happy to work with you to see what the reasoning is behind that. Oh, and I think I am almost an hour on the dot, so I think this is a good time to wrap up our payments webinar. I want to thank everybody for joining today. This is a very lengthy webinar, so I appreciate everybody's patience with me as I got through it. We are actually doing this webinar again today at 3 p.m. So if you felt like you missed anything, you want to go over it again, please feel free to sign up for the 3 p.m. session. And you will be getting a recording of this that should be going out within 24 hours from now. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon, and maybe I'll talk to you later on this afternoon. Take care. Bye-bye.